Dr. Elena Vasquez sat in the back corner of the meeting room aboard the space station called Nexus Prime. She had chosen the chair furthest from the main table, where all the important aliens were talking. Her small notebook lay open on her lap, and she wrote in it with an old pen, while the voices around her grew louder and more worried. The room was huge and made of shiny metal that reflected the stars outside. 12 different alien species had sent their best people to this emergency meeting. Each group looked very different from the others. The Vorthak had 4 arms and skin like gray stone. They moved their hands in quick patterns while they spoke. The Zelani looked like tall, thin trees, with glowing spots along their bodies. When they talked, all their spots flashed at the same time. The Etherians were hard to see clearly. They seemed to be made of light that kept changing shape. Elena was the only human in the room. She was small compared to most of the aliens. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore a plain blue jumpsuit that looked cheap next to all the fancy clothes and technology the other species had. The problem that brought them all here was scary. 3 weeks ago, a huge object had appeared at the edge of human space. It was bigger than any ship anyone had ever seen. The object was old, maybe millions of years old. It was sending out signals that had numbers and symbols in them. The signals repeated over and over, but no one could figure out what they meant. Every day, the signals got stronger. Scientists from all the smart species had tried to solve the puzzle. They used the best computers and the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Nothing worked. The object just kept sending its strange message. Ambassador Keth Vor of the Vorthak stood up. He was the tallest person in the room, with 4 arms that moved like snakes. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together when he spoke. "This construct tests intelligence beyond measure," he said. "Our quantum processors have analyzed every possible mathematical sequence. The pattern complexity exceeds anything in known science." The other Vorthak nodded their stone-like heads. They were famous for being good at math. Their whole culture was built around numbers and logic. If they could not solve this puzzle, it must be very hard. Queen Zara 9 of the Zelani spoke next. When she talked, her voice came from all the Zelani in the room at once. They were a hive mind, which meant they all shared one big brain. "We have connected all our minds across 7 star systems," she said. "Millions of Zelani are thinking about this problem at the same time. The mathematical structure appears deliberately chaotic. It may be impossible to solve." The Etherian representative flickered brighter for a moment. It was hard to tell when they were talking, because they did not have a mouth. Their voice seemed to come from the air itself. "Our quantum consciousness has explored infinite probability streams," the Etherian said. "Each calculation leads to a dead end. This construct operates beyond normal space-time logic." More aliens spoke. Each one talked about how they had tried to solve the puzzle using their special abilities. The crystalline minds had used their perfect memory. The metal shapers had built new kinds of computers. The star singers had tried to talk to the object using music made of light. Everyone had failed. Elena kept writing in her notebook. She drew small pictures and wrote down numbers. Sometimes she would cross something out and try again. She did not look up when the aliens talked. She did not raise her hand to speak. She just sat quietly and worked on her own ideas. Ambassador Keth Vor noticed her after an hour of discussion. He pointed one of his arms at her. "Why is the human still here?" he asked loudly. "This problem requires actual intelligence. Their primitive minds cannot help us." Several aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. The Zelani's spots flashed in a pattern that Elena knew meant they found something funny. "Humans count on their fingers," said Subcommander Crix of the Metal Shapers. "They write with sticks on dead tree parts. How could they solve what we cannot?" Elena looked up for just a second, then went back to her notebook. She turned to a new page and started drawing again. "Perhaps the humans should leave," suggested an Etherian. "This meeting is for species with advanced cognitive abilities." More alien laughter filled the room. Elena's pen never stopped moving. The hours passed. The aliens tried new ideas. They brought out bigger computers. They made calls to their home worlds for help. Scientists and professors joined the meeting through video screens. Nothing worked. Elena filled page after page with her simple drawings and basic math. Her notebook was old and worn. The pages had coffee stains on them. Compared to all the shiny alien technology, it looked like a child's toy. As the day went on, the aliens got more frustrated. They started arguing with each other. The Vorthak blamed the Zilani for not thinking hard enough. The Zilani said the Etherians were using the wrong kind of quantum processing. Everyone seemed to have an opinion about what everyone else was doing wrong. Through it all, Elena sat in her corner and worked. She did not join the arguments. She did not suggest that the others were wrong. She just kept writing and drawing in her simple notebook with her simple pen. The emergency meeting had started at sunrise. Now it was getting dark outside the space station. The alien object was still sending its mysterious signals. The puzzle was still unsolved. And Elena was still writing. The second day of meetings began before dawn. Elena arrived early and took the same corner seat. Her notebook was thicker now, filled with pages of drawings and numbers. She had stayed up most of the night working on her ideas while the aliens slept or recharged their technology. The room buzzed with new activity. Each alien species had brought their most powerful tools. The Vorthak rolled in machines that looked like metal trees with thousands of blinking lights. The Zilani had connected their minds to even more of their people back home. Now millions of them were thinking together about the problem. The Etherians had done something that made the air shimmer around them. Elena could not understand what it was, but it looked impressive. Every alien group seemed to have found new ways to attack the puzzle. Ambassador Keth Vor spoke first. His four arms moved in complicated patterns while he talked. Our mathematical processors have reached new levels of processing power, he announced. We can now calculate possibilities at quantum speeds. The solution must reveal itself soon. The Vorthak were proud of their logical thinking. Their whole society was built around math and reason. They believed that every problem could be solved if you just thought about it hard enough and long enough. Queen Zara 9 of the Zilani glowed brighter than before. When she spoke, her words echoed from dozens of her people in the room. We have expanded our collective consciousness to include our greatest thinkers from the past 1,000 years, she said. The wisdom of ages is now focused on this single problem. The Zilani were different from most species because they shared one big mind. When they needed to solve something hard, they could connect more and more of their people until they had millions of brains working together. Elena thought it sounded useful but also very noisy in your head. The Etherian representative grew brighter and spoke in their strange voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. We have transcended normal dimensional thinking, they said. Our consciousness now operates in 12 dimensions simultaneously. We see patterns that exist beyond physical reality. Elena listened to all of this while she worked in her notebook. She had divided her pages into sections now. One section had simple drawings of the signal patterns. Another had basic math that looked like something from a school textbook. A third section had what looked like children's games and songs. The aliens paid no attention to her work. When they looked at her at all, it was with expressions that clearly meant they thought she was wasting everyone's time. The hours passed. Each alien group tried their new approaches. The Vorthak fed all possible mathematical sequences into their supercomputers. The Zilani had their millions of minds think about every aspect of the problem at once. The Etherians used their 12-dimensional consciousness to look for patterns that normal minds could not see. None of it worked. The alien object kept sending its signals, but the meaning remained hidden. Around lunchtime, Elena did something that surprised everyone. She stood up from her corner chair and walked to one of the smaller displays at the side of the room. She connected her simple tablet to it and started showing her notebook pages on the screen. The aliens stopped their discussions to stare at her. Her drawings looked like stick figures next to their advanced mathematical formulas. Her calculations used basic addition and subtraction, while theirs involved quantum mechanics and dimensional physics. Has anyone considered, Elena said quietly, that the pattern might be deliberately designed to confuse advanced analytical systems? The room went completely silent for about 3 seconds. Then it exploded with sound. The Vorthak made grinding noises that meant they were laughing very hard. Ambassador Keth Vor's 4 arms waved in the air. Primitive paranoia, he declared. The construct clearly operates on mathematical principles beyond your species' comprehension. You think in terms of tricks and deception, because that is how simple minds work. The Zilani spots flashed in rapid patterns. Queen Zara IX's voice carried the amusement of millions of minds. The human suggests that advanced intelligence is somehow a weakness, she said. This shows the limitation of individual consciousness. You cannot imagine that some problems require more thinking power, not less. The Etherians shimmered with what Elena thought might be their version of laughter. Your three-dimensional perspective creates illusions, they said. You see complexity where there is simply higher-order mathematics. This is why your species struggles with concepts beyond basic survival. Other aliens joined in the criticism. The Metal Shapers said humans were too emotional to understand pure logic. The Star Singers said human brains were too slow for real problem-solving. The Crystal Minds said humans forgot too much to build proper knowledge. Elena stood calmly through all of this. She did not argue back or try to defend herself. She just waited for the noise to die down. When it finally got quiet, she said one word, "Okay." Then she went back to her corner seat and continued working in her notebook. Her pen moved even faster now, filling pages with new drawings and calculations. She seemed to be building towards something, connecting ideas from different sections of her work. The aliens went back to their own efforts. They were even more convinced now that humans had nothing useful to offer. The problem clearly needed the kind of advanced thinking that only highly evolved species could provide. But as Elena worked, something interesting happened. The alien object's signals changed slightly. Not enough for the big computers to notice, but Elena's simple tools picked it up right away. She made a note about the change and kept working. The pattern was becoming clearer to her, even as it remained hidden from everyone else. On the third day, everything changed. The alien object had started doing more than just sending signals. Space around it was bending in strange ways. Ships that got too close were pulled toward it by invisible forces. The gravity in the area was acting like nothing scientists had ever seen before. Fear filled the meeting room. This was no longer just a puzzle to solve for curiosity. If they could not figure out what the object wanted, it might destroy everything nearby. Whole star systems could be at risk. Elena arrived that morning with 3 notebooks now. She had filled up her first one and started 2 more. Her eyes were tired from staying up late, but her hands moved faster than ever as she wrote and drew. The aliens were desperate. The Vorthak had connected all their computers across their entire empire. Billions of calculations were happening every second. The Zilani had linked the minds of everyone in their species. Never before had so much brain power been focused on one problem. The Etherians had done something that made reality itself shimmer around them. They claimed to be thinking in 17 dimensions now. The other species had brought out their most secret technologies and their most brilliant experts. Still, nothing worked. The object kept sending its signals, and space kept bending around it in dangerous ways. Ambassador Keth Vor looked more worried than Elena had ever seen him. His stone-like skin had cracks in it from stress. His forearms moved nervously instead of in their usual confident patterns. "Time grows short," he announced. "If we cannot solve this soon, we must consider destroying the construct before it threatens inhabited worlds." Queen Zara IX's spots flashed in patterns that showed fear. Her voice carried the worry of billions of minds. "Our collective analysis suggests the construct cannot be destroyed by conventional weapons," she said. "Its technology is beyond our understanding. We must decode its purpose." The pressure in the room was enormous. Everyone could feel it. The smartest minds in the galaxy were failing, and time was running out. That was when Elena stood up again. This time, she did not go to a small side screen. She walked directly to the main holographic display in the center of the room, where everyone could see her clearly. The aliens watched her with confusion and annoyance. What could the primitive human possibly do that their advanced systems could not? Elena connected her simple tablet to the main display. Her notebook pages appeared huge in the air above them. Her stick figure drawings and basic math looked tiny and silly next to all the complex alien equations floating around the room. "The sequence isn't mathematical," Elena announced in a clear, calm voice. Every alien in the room turned to stare at her. The Vorthak made their grinding laugh sounds. The Zelani's spots flashed in disbelief. The Etherians flickered like they were having trouble maintaining their form. "Of course it is mathematical," said Ambassador Kethvor. "Everything in the universe follows mathematical principles. Your simple mind cannot recognize advanced calculations." Elena did not argue. Instead, she started showing her work. She had taken the complex signals from the alien object and broken them down into simple parts. Then she had compared those parts to something very different from what the aliens expected. "It's anthropological," she said. The word hung in the air like a foreign language. The aliens did not understand what she meant. Elena explained. "You have all been trying to solve this like a math problem or a physics puzzle. But the object is not testing how smart we are. It is testing something else entirely." She showed page after page from her notebooks. What looked like children's drawings were actually careful studies of how different cultures create patterns. Her simple math was not calculations about space and time. It was analysis of how intelligent beings make symbols to represent ideas. "Every species here has approached this as a logic puzzle," Elena continued. "But the construct is testing for the ability to recognize deliberate irrationality masquerading as sophistication." The room went dead silent. Elena had everyone's attention now. Even though they did not want to give it to her, she pointed to sections of the alien signals that everyone had assumed were quantum mathematics. Using her simple tools, she showed how they were actually counting games from civilizations that had died out millions of years ago. The patterns looked complicated, but underneath they were just ways that children learned numbers by playing. "Look," Elena said, highlighting parts of the signal. "This section that you thought was dimensional calculus? It's actually a nursery rhyme from the ancients of Rigel. This part that looked like quantum theory? It's a finger-counting song from the first dynasty of Vega." The aliens stared at her displays in shock. How could their advanced systems have missed something so simple? The construct buried these childlike patterns under layers of fake complexity, Elena explained. "Your computers and quantum minds are too sophisticated. They kept looking for complicated answers because that's what they were designed to find. But sometimes the right answer is simple." Ambassador Kethvor's forearms trembled. "That is impossible. Our systems analyze every possibility." "They analyze every sophisticated possibility," Elena corrected him gently. "They are programmed to look for advanced mathematics and complex physics. None of them thought to check if the complicated stuff might be hiding simple children's games." 1. Elena showed them more examples. Every impossible part of the alien signal matched some basic pattern from a dead civilization. Songs that parents sang to babies, games that children played with rocks and sticks, simple counting rhymes that helped young minds learn numbers. "The object is not testing intelligence," Elena said. "It is testing wisdom. The wisdom to see through fake complexity and recognize simple truths." For the first time in 3 days, the alien object's signals changed. Not just a little bit, but completely. It had been listening to their discussion. Elena's explanation was what it had been waiting for. The room erupted in chaos as every alien began talking at once. But Elena was not done yet. She had one more revelation that would change everything. The chaos in the room was incredible. Every alien species was talking at once, trying to understand how their advanced systems had missed something so basic. Their computers were the best in the galaxy. Their minds could process information in ways that seemed like magic. How could a human with a paper notebook see what they could not? Elena waited for the noise to calm down. She stood quietly by the main display while equations and calculations flashed around her. The aliens were trying to rebuild their analysis using her discovery, but they were struggling. Even knowing the answer, they could not easily see the simple patterns hidden in the complex signals. Ambassador Kethvor was the first to admit confusion. His forearms moved in frustrated patterns while he spoke. "If what you say is true, why can your mind detect these patterns while our systems cannot? Our processors are thousands of times more powerful than human brains." Elena smiled a little. This was the question she had hoped someone would ask. "That's exactly why you missed it," she said. "Your systems are too advanced. They were designed by species that evolved to be specialists. She connected her tablet again and showed new pages from her notebooks. These ones had drawings of different alien species and notes about how their minds worked. The Vorthak evolved on a world where everything followed precise mathematical rules, Elena explained. Your environment was predictable. Logical thinking kept you alive. So your brains became perfect mathematical processors. Ambassador Kethvor nodded slowly. This was true about his people. The Zalani evolved as a hive species, Elena continued, looking at Queen Zara 9. Your survival depended on thinking together and sharing information instantly. So your minds became perfect at collective processing. The Zalani spots flashed in agreement. The Etherians evolved in quantum space, Elena said to the shimmering beings. Your reality operates on multiple dimensions. So your consciousness became perfect at quantum thinking. Every species in the room had evolved to be excellent at specific types of thinking. They were specialists. The best in the galaxy at their particular mental abilities. But humans are different, Elena said. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us in every possible way. She showed drawings of Earth, ice ages, volcanoes, hurricanes, floods, droughts, earthquakes, then drawings of the animals that hunted early humans, saber-toothed cats, cave bears, giant wolves. We survived not by becoming the best at any one thing, Elena explained. We survived by being good enough at everything. We had to be flexible. We had to adapt quickly. We had to think in different ways depending on what was trying to kill us. Elena turned to a new page that showed the structure of human thinking. It looked chaotic compared to the clean, organized diagrams of alien minds. Human brains can shift between different types of processing, she said. We can think analytically like Vorthak, when we need to solve math problems. We can think collectively like Zalani. When we work in groups, we can think in multiple dimensions like Etherians when we need to be creative. She paused to let this sink in. But we can also think simply when simple is what works. We can see basic patterns, even when they are hidden inside complex systems. We can recognize when sophistication is just a mask for something elementary. The alien object's signals were changing again. The patterns were becoming clearer, responding to Elena's explanation. It was as if the construct was pleased that someone finally understood what it was testing for. Elena worked quickly now, translating the cleaned-up signals into normal language. The results appeared on the main display for everyone to see. It was not just a message. It was a map. A map showing the location of something incredible. A vast library built by an ancient civilization. The library contained all the knowledge of the first space-traveling species in the galaxy. Technology beyond anything the current species possessed. History going back billions of years. Answers to questions no one had thought to ask yet. But there was more. As Elena decoded further, she found something that made her hands shake with excitement. The ancient civilization that built the library and left the construct was not alien at all. They were human, or something so close to human that the difference did not matter. Billions of years ago, before any of the current species had evolved, humans had spread across the galaxy. The construct was not just a test. It was an inheritance waiting for the right descendants to claim it. And those descendants had to prove they still had the essential human trait. The ability to see truth through complexity. To find simple answers when everyone else was blinded by their own sophistication. The library is ours, Elena said softly, reading the final part of the message. It was left for us. For humans. For the species that never forgot how to think simply. When simple thinking is what the situation requires. The room fell silent again. Every alien stared at the display showing star charts and navigation data that led to humanity's inheritance. Elena turned back to her notebook and began copying down the coordinates. She used her simple pen and basic math to record the most important discovery in galactic history. The aliens watched her work and finally began to understand. Sometimes the most powerful tools in the universe were not quantum computers, or collective minds, or multi-dimensional consciousness. Sometimes the most powerful tool was just the willingness to think differently from everyone else. The star charts floating above the main display showed a location deep in the galactic core. The ancient library was hidden in a region that most species considered too dangerous to explore. Massive gravity fields from countless stars made normal space travel impossible, but the construct had provided detailed navigation instructions that could guide ships safely through the maze. Elena finished copying the coordinates into her notebook. Her simple handwriting recorded humanity's path to the greatest treasure in the galaxy. Around her, the aliens were having heated discussions about what this discovery meant. Ambassador HFY spoke first, his forearms moving in demanding gestures. This library belongs to all intelligent species. Knowledge should be shared equally among the civilized races of the galaxy. 1. Queen Zara 9's spots flashed in agreement. The Zalani Collective supports this position. No single species should control access to ancient wisdom. The Etherians shimmered brighter. Universal knowledge transcends individual ownership. All consciousness should benefit from these discoveries. More voices joined in. Every alien species had reasons why they deserved access to the library. The Metal Shapers said their technology could best preserve ancient artifacts. The Star Singers claimed their long lifespans made them ideal guardians of historical knowledge. The Crystal Mines argued that their perfect memory would ensure nothing was ever lost. Elena listened to all of this while she organized her notebooks. She stacked them neatly on the table and put her pen away in her pocket. Then she stood up and walked back to the center of the room. The aliens continued their arguments, making deals and forming alliances. They were already planning how to divide up humanity's inheritance among themselves. Elena waited patiently for them to notice her. Finally, Ambassador HFY turned toward her. The human will naturally receive some compensation for her assistance in solving the puzzle. A fair percentage of discovered technologies would be appropriate. 10%, suggested Queen Zara 9. That is generous for such a minor contribution. 5%, countered an Etherian. The actual work was done by the ancient construct builders. Elena smiled. It was not a happy smile or a sad smile. It was the kind of smile that showed someone had just realized something important. She looked around the room at all the aliens who had spent 3 days mocking her. The same beings who had called humans primitive and stupid were now discussing how much of humanity's own inheritance they would allow humans to keep. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, but every word carried clearly through the room. Is this where I pretend I can't succeed? The aliens stopped talking and stared at her. They did not understand what she meant. Elena continued, her voice getting stronger. For 3 days, you told me that humans are too primitive to solve complex problems. You laughed at my simple tools and basic methods. You said our minds are too limited for real intelligence. She gestured toward the star charts still floating above them. But when my primitive mind solved the puzzle that your advanced systems could not, you immediately decided that humans are not smart enough to handle what we found. You want to take control of our inheritance because you think we cannot be trusted with it. Ambassador HFY's forearms moved nervously. The library contains dangerous knowledge. Advanced species are better equipped to use it responsibly. Advanced species, Elena repeated. The same advanced species that could not see simple children's songs hidden in complex equations. The same advanced species that almost destroyed the galaxy by trying to destroy something they did not understand. Elena walked to the main display and highlighted sections of the construct's final message that the aliens had not paid attention to while they argued about ownership. The construct has been watching all of you for thousands of years, she said. It has seen how each species uses knowledge. The Vorthak turn everything into weapons. The Zalani use knowledge to control other minds. The Etherians hide discoveries to maintain their sense of superiority. The aliens shifted uncomfortably as Elena read examples from their own histories. But humans do something different with knowledge, Elena continued. We share it. Even when it costs us power, even when it helps our enemies, we believe that truth should be available to everyone who can handle it responsibly. She turned back to face the room full of aliens. The ancient humans who built that library knew this about us. They knew that their descendants would still have the wisdom to see simple truths and the generosity to share them fairly. That is why the test could only be passed by human thinking. Elena picked up her notebooks and held them against her chest. The library coordinates are in here, she said. patting the simple paper pages. I solved the puzzle. I earned the right to decide how humanity's inheritance is used. The room went completely silent. Every alien realized that Elena was right. By their own laws and traditions, the person who solved a puzzle owned its rewards. Elena had succeeded where they all failed. The treasure belonged to her and to humanity. We could take the information from you, Ambassador Kethvor said quietly. Elena smiled again. This time, it was definitely a happy smile. You could try, she said. But you would fail, just like you failed to solve the construct's puzzle. You still do not understand how human minds work. She tapped her temple with one finger. I memorized everything. The coordinates, the navigation instructions, the access codes. It is all in here now, stored the same way humans have stored important information for millions of years. In our minds, protected by our stubbornness. Elena walked toward the door of the meeting room. The aliens watched her go but did not try to stop her. They were beginning to understand that they had made a serious mistake. At the doorway, Elena paused and looked back. Humanity will share what we find in the library, she said. But we will share it our way. With the species and individuals who prove they can use knowledge wisely. The age of humans being quietly dismissed is over. She left the room and walked toward the shuttle bays. Behind her, the alien construct was already powering down. Its test complete. And its purpose fulfilled. Elena Vasquez, the quiet woman who sat in the corner and wrote in a simple notebook, had just changed humanity's place in the galaxy forever. And she had done it not by pretending to be something she was not, but by being exactly what humans had always been. Clever, adaptable, and wise enough to see truth where others saw only complexity. The universe was about to learn what humans could accomplish when they stopped pretending they could not succeed.